Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Magic Box. So in this video, I want to go a little bit over while loops, which I mentioned in the previous video, and then also introduce the RGB Light. Okay, so I have my code here with the dots and the dashes functions, which we learned about. All right, which makes it really easy for us to do these 3 quick blinks and also 3 long blinks. To do SOS. One thing that I want to bring to your attention is that you see I got 3 dots here, 3 dashes, and 3 dots. All right. So as we look to make our code more and more efficient and just simpler to read and just shorter, more condensed, we want to go a next step. So we added the functions so that we don't have to write all the code to make a dot, because we could just look at the function here and then the code will know to just execute these 4. But we can see another repetition here is that we have 3 dot commands. So what if we want to just repeat those? So that's where we introduce a while loop. All right, so let me just put it in here. This is how the while works. We can go while something. So you're going to put something in between these two parentheses, while do the stuff inside these 2 curly braces. All right. Now the thing that we want to do is do the dot thing, the dot function. So we're going to cut this and put it into there. All right. So we're saying this is how you kind of read it out. It'll make sense this way. While something is true, do this. Whatever is inside these 2 curly braces, which is the dot command. So what do we want it to be true? And how do we make the thing that is true only true for 3 times? Because we only want this to happen 3 times, right? So here we go. We're going to have a variable here. I don't think we've talked about variables yet. I will in a second. So we're going to do int counter semicolon. Okay. So real quick on variables. The way that I like to think of variable is like it's like a container, like my coffee mug right here. So imagine this is a variable, and I named it counter. Okay, so now my cup is now called counter. All right, so this is counter. Now what is the value though? The value is what's inside of counter. All right, so right now if you look at my code, int counter, all it's saying, it's a declaration. It's saying I want to make a variable and call it counter. Here it is. Here's my counter. Now I can set the value though by doing this. So I go next line, counter, I say counter equals 0, and my statement with a semicolon. So what it's saying is counter, so what's in there is 0. That means there's nothing in there. Okay, but I can change that value to any number. Okay, if you notice it says int here, int, that means it's an integer. So any number, all the negatives and all the positives. There's a minimum number and also a positive number, but it's really big that we don't need to worry about at this moment. Okay, so just know it's a number. It can be negative or positives, but right now I'm setting it at 0, so my variable counter is equal to 0. But you can make it 1. Like if I could change it, I could change it to 1 or 100. Like all that is okay. But let's say I say counter equals 100, then I have my counter here, right? My cup. But there's like 100, let's say, beans in there or something. Let's just say. So there's 100. There could be 100 if I set it to 100, but I want to set it to 0. Boom. Okay. So now I'm going to use this counter. I'm going to say while whatever in this parenthesis is true. So while counter is less than 3, I'm going to do this dot. Okay. So while counter is less than 3, let's do this dot. Cool. Well, so I set counter to 0. Okay. So then when I get to line 29 here, is 0 less than 3 true? Then it's going to do this. And then it's going to loop here as long as counter is less than 3. So then it goes back up here and says, is counter less than 3? Well, counter is 0 again. Is it less than 3? True. Then it's going to do it again. And you can see it's just going to keep looping forever because counter is always 0. So that's not super helpful. We need to increase counter. We need to make counter bigger step by step, one by one. That's why I call it counter, because we're going to count. Okay, so after inside our while loop, I'm going to say counter equals counter plus 1. And that statement. So we're doing a little math now, but it's just adding 1. So let's look at it again. The first time it goes through, is counter less than 3? Well, counter is 0, so we're good. Then it does dot, and then it adds 1 to counter. So 0 plus 1 is 1, and it makes counter now equal to 1. Now we go back again. Is 1 less than 3? Yes. So let's do it, go through it here, and then counter becomes 2. Okay. And then goes back, is 2 less than 3? Yes, then it does it. And then counter becomes 3. Okay? And then is 3 less than 3? 3 is not less than 3. 3 is equal to 3. Right? So then, since that's not true, it's going to jump out and come out of here to the next step. So I think we got it right. If we set it equal to 0, and we say counter is less than 3, and then we do this counter equals counter plus 1, this will do 3 dots. Okay? Now, you may look at this code and you say, okay, well, I could have just done 3 dots like this, right? Instead of doing this kind of looks complicated code here. I guess if you look at it, the number of lines is about the same, but in this situation, maybe you don't save that many lines, but definitely in the future, these while loops are going to be a huge help to you. And you kind of see this when we start doing the RGB Light. So I did want to introduce it to you. Okay, so don't just be like, oh, that looks complicated, I'm just going to go with these 3 dot commands. All right, but I did want to use this to show you how it works. So now that we have that, let's get rid of this. We still want our delay, okay? And then we have our 3 dots here. I'm gonna copy this because we're gonna replace these with the 3 dots, right? And then these 3 dashes we need to also replace. So I'm going to copy this while loop here, copy this, and I'm going to put it here, and instead of dot, say dash. Okay? So now I have my 3 dots, 3 dashes, and 3 dots, but using a counter, using a while loop. All right, let's just make sure it works, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, uploading. Here we go. 3 dots. 3 dots. Am I doing something wrong here? Looks like, oh, you know what? Yes, I messed up because I'm like, why is it just doing that? Because look, in the beginning I say counter equals 0, right? And then I do all this, right? I need to, when I get to this part here, this while loop, counter is already 3, right? So then it doesn't do these. Because when it gets to here, since counter is already 3 from what it did up here, it's going to say 3 is greater than 3, or 3 is not less than 3, so then it's going to jump down and then skip all this, and then also skip all this. So, you see I have this counter equals 0. I have to set my variable back to 0 before each while loop. Counter equals 0, then do that stuff. Counter equals 0, do all that stuff, okay? Common mistake. I like to make mistakes with you so we can learn together. Let's try again. I was like, what's going on here? Okay. Dash, dash, dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. Yep. So now we got it working. So I didn't reset my counter to 0. So that was the problem there. All right, cool. So I just want to introduce that concept. We're going to use the while loop more in the future. I know I did give you some challenges of writing like secret code to your neighbor, doing your name in Morse code. So I'm not going to go over that, but I just want you to have fun with that. If you do have any questions about, how would I do this in Morse code, feel free to reach out. But I figure you guys can figure it out and kind of just really just more to have fun with it and have some challenges on the way. Okay. So let's talk about the RGB light. Let's do this. I'm going to open up my whiteboard here and let's see, it might take a second. So as that's happening, let me transition over here. I'm going to unplug this. Okay. So what we're going to need is we're going to need our breadboard here. Breadboard's coming back. We're going to need this, which is our RGB light, okay? And I want you to notice, do you see there are four legs here, right? And we want to notice the longest leg there, okay? The longest leg there is going to be the connected to G and D, all right? So it's kind of like different from the other LED where the long leg is the plus. The long leg on the RGB here is actually minus, okay? So let's look at that. I think my whiteboard's ready to go now. Okay, so it's going to draw. All right, let me get rid of this. Okay. Let's draw our RGB. Okay, the way it works is we have RGB and then it's got 3 legs this way, the third one being the longest, and then actually a fourth where these two are the same length, okay? So this one we're going to be connected to my Uno here, okay? That's going to be connected to G and D. That's the minus. And then all of these, we got 3 lights here, okay? Now these 3 lights are going to be red, green, and blue for RGB. R, G, and B, okay? So, and the way that it's connected is that the minus, so another way to look at this is that, I'll draw it over here. There are 3 lights in here. Where this is a symbol for RGB. All the minuses are connected to G and D, which is what we have here, okay? Now the pluses, we need a resistor for each one. And then these get connected to a pin on the Uno, or a nerve, that's the way we like to call it. So that we're able to program it to turn on or off. So we're going to be able to control 3 lights using one single RGB here, because there are actually 3 lights in here. All right. So rather than making some crazy line connections, let's just label it here. So let's use, I'm looking at my Uno here. Let's use 3, 5, and 6. Okay. So I'm just going to write 3, 5, and 6. 3, 5, and 6. All right. And so pretty easy connections once we kind of know what's going on here. All right, let's go back here. Let me zoom in so you can kind of see how we need to connect this thing. Okay. So first thing is let's take our RGB light and let's make it so that each row, I'm going to turn my breadboard the right way here, where one's on top. Each row, each pin is on its own row. So here, kind of get this right here. Let's use 1 through 4. Wiggle, wiggle. Remember, don't mess with it too much. Don't want to bend these things. Okay. So I have it for where my longest leg is in row 3. So why don't you go ahead and do that same thing just to keep us consistent. Okay. So long leg into row 3. Now, let's take a black wire, pin to pin. Let's connect row 3. Wiggle, wiggle, or turn. Okay. Let's put this to G and D, right? I'll go ahead and take out this light. We won't need it for now. So let's go G and D. Okay, so that's easy. And then now we have 3 resistors, right? Let's go with the 470 ohm because I like 470 ohm will give us the brighter light. So let's go 470 ohm, and let's connect the 3 other ones to the resistor. All right, so let me move this. So here's row 1 needs a resistor. I'm just going to jump over to the other side, like so. Okay, do the same thing with, get some more resistors here, 470 ohm. See, you see how I dropped this right here? See, if my thing was plugged in, this could have shorted and making an electrical connection somewhere where I don't want it, and could have shorted out the board. That's why always good to unplug this. Okay. Then we have next resistor. Let's go row 2. And hop over to the other side. Again, if you forget how the breadboard works, you know, I recommend checking out the other videos, the previous videos. Okay, and then as I'm doing this, you see my resistors are close together. Again, because, you know, we still have to keep in mind, even though the breadboard's there, help us make connections, electrical, like metal is metal, okay? So like if you touch metal like that, those 2 legs right here on metal, that's an unwanted connection, okay? So even when you put it in, just because it's in the breadboard, you still have to be careful. Make sure that the metal is not touching each other, okay? All right, third one, this is going to go to row 4, because remember, row 3 is connected to G and D. Row 4, and then go to row 4. Oh. All right, wiggle, wiggle. Okay. All right, I got my 3 resistors in. And then let's get 3 of these pin to pin, and let's get red, green, and blue for RGB. All right, makes sense, right? Now I don't know which one's red or blue or whatever, so I guess we'll figure it out. Let's first do pin this one up here. I'll put blue here, and then green I'll put in row 2. And then red, I'm going to put in row 4. All right. And then let's go ahead and plug these into the Uno side. And we'll change these later because I want red to match up with red and so forth. Green, but let's just randomly put it in. I'm going to put red into 3, 5, and 6, right? Blue into 5, and then green into 6. Okay. Now, Now again, I don't know if I have it correct, but we'll see. And we'll kind of make adjustments as we go. Okay. So I guess, you know, we'll, yeah, because we'll go ahead and do it like me, where I have blue up here. Blue is row 1, red and green 2, in row 2, and red into row 4, and then so forth over here. And then in the code, we're going to go ahead and do some testing here. All right. So I'm going to go in my code here. I have my dot and dash code. I'm going to go ahead and just leave that there. All right. So maybe I want it later, right? So I'm going to get rid of my Morse code stuff. So I have an empty loop. Okay. Now pin mode set up. Let's go. What do we use? We wanted 3. Going back to my 3, 5, and 6, right? Okay. So I got to set those up as outputs. Pin mode 3. 5. And 6. All right. Cool. And they're all set up as outputs because we're going to be outputting light on them. Now let's try number 3. Okay, so I'm going to do turn on number 3. Digital write 3 high. Okay, so I'm just going to have one thing in my loop. It's going to turn on number 3 high. Let's upload this and see what happens. Oh, okay, you see that? Red. So 3 should be red, and what do you know? My 3 is red. Got lucky. Okay, so 3, I have a red wire into 3 going into row 4 for the RGB, and it's correct. Red is red. That's interesting. Got lucky. All right, let's go back. Let's try what's the next one? 5. So my 5, on pin 5, I have a blue. I have a blue wire into pin 5 right now. Let's see what happens. Is it blue? Am I going to get super lucky and get 2 of the colors right? Oh my goodness. It's my lucky day, guys. So blue is 5, and I have a blue wire into 5. Okay? So that worked out. Interesting. All right, and because of that, if I go here, pretty sure, but just to test, number 6 is going to be green. And I got green. You see it in the camera. Cool. So let's go ahead and write it in our code here. Put a comment here. That's red. And 5 is blue. And green. Red, blue, and green. All right, cool. So let's have some fun with this now. Let's go red, blue, green, red, blue, green. Okay, so I'm gonna red, blue, green. Okay, and remember, we got to put some delays in here, right? Wait, what am I doing? No, red, yeah, high. Now with some delay. Let's go 500, half a second. Okay. And then let's upload this and see what happens. I think they're just gonna be all off, and then they'll one in a sequence turn on. Let's go. You see that? And then they just stayed on, right? here's a little thing. You see this red button? That's a reset button. So I can press it and it'll reset. Red, blue, green. Okay? Now I want you to notice once they turn on, it kind of looks white, right? Because you have a combination of those three colors will create different colors. So I'll share that in a little bit, and we'll kind of explore that. Maybe in the next video we'll explore that, but just kind of as a you know, a heads up, you know, like when you combine all three of those colors, RGB kind of get white light. It's kind of like that's the way that you make different colors on the TV actually. Again, but we'll talk more about that in the next video. For now, let's write some functions, okay? So I'm gonna write a function for RGB off. Void RGB off. Okay, so in here is gonna be the code to turn the RGB all off. Take a digital write, turn them all low, right? Have that one. Okay, all off. Is that right? 3, 4, 5? No, 3, 5, and 6. Almost messed up. And then what we'll do is turn them all off by calling my function RGB off. And then so that way it turns them on one by one and then turns it all off, and then we'll cycle through. So let's try that. Okay, looking at my, yeah, you see that? And if you notice, so it first starts with red, right? And then it goes what? And then it goes blue. So red and blue kind of gives you a purple. I want you to notice that. If you look, you know, if you look at it, put my hand here, kind of like when you shade it like that, or you can look at the reflection onto your hand, you can kind of see those colors more. But the point I want to bring out is that red and blue is going to give you like a purple. Okay, so now we have that going. Now, you know what? I'm just going to like pause it there and give you some challenges. Okay, so let's go on up here. So we don't need the Morse code. I'll leave that Morse code sheet stuff there as a reference. Okay. The challenges be number 1. Make police car light pattern. Okay. So imagine the police car you've seen when it's driving, and we've got a car chase going or something. I think we have the lights here to make it like a police car, right? So that should be pretty easy, I think. Okay. And then number 2, let's see, what else could we do here? I want you to go red, green, and blue, okay? But you know how I have it, or maybe I'll do it like this: red blink, green blink, blue blink, okay? So mine is like, it goes red, green, but then the red stays on, and then the blue, but then the red and green are still on too, okay? But I want it red goes blink off, like on off, then green on off, then blue on off, like that. Okay, you can kind of do any speed that you want. All right, and then number 3, you know what I want you to do? I want you to do as well as you can, colors of the rainbow. Okay, so let's see if we could do this. RGB colors. Just literally searching it right now. Okay. Okay. So you can look it up, and I'll kind of give you some, it's a challenge to try to figure out these color combinations here. Okay, but let's see, if you use these 3 different LED colors, you're able to get different colors in all of them of the rainbow. So if you look here, and then also let's do this. What are they? Is it ROYGBIV, right? So we got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. All right. So how would you do that? Let's see. So we have different. So what we have here is like different degrees. Okay. So I'm playing with some numbers here. Okay. And so since I've kind of jumped ahead here, I'm thinking, you know what? I got a few more minutes. Let's go ahead and go over this. All right. So when we turn on these lights, we're actually able to turn them on halfway, and then actually a quarter of the way, and so forth. So right now, when we use digital write, all right, it turns it all the way high. When we say high, it turns it all the way on. And if you say low, it turns it all the way off. But if you wanted to do like a different degree, like if you wanted red on all the way but blue on halfway, right, then you have to do something else. You can't use digital write. So then I'm going to change these. Let's change this back. You can use AnalogWrite. Okay, so AnalogWrite is going to give you the ability to turn things halfway on and so forth. So partially on, kind of like the dial on a like a dimmer light, right? Where you can like set the brightness of the light. That's what the analog gives you. Okay. Now the way the analog works, instead of just high-low, it's a number between 0 and 255. So 255 is maximum. Okay. So 255 is turning the dial all the way, making the light totally fully on. So if we do that, we should get them kind of get the same situation here. So let me just upload here. This behavior of the light will be the same because they're telling it to turn all the way on. Okay, so it's kind of like doing the same thing. So what I'm going to do now is going to take away these delays. I'm going to upload this. So what I did now is I turned on all 3. Oh, you know what? I have this RGB off here. I don't need that. I just want to turn on all 3. Okay, so that gives me like a white light because I have all red, green, and blue all on. So let's go back to this thing. So I found this just now. I'm just put this up here. I kind of like this color guide, I'll call it. There's the link there. Okay. I kind of like that because look, if I do 255, 255, 255, look, it tells you it's white, right? But what if I want like yellow? So then I can just kind of move this like that. That looks yellow. Okay, check it out. What's it say? 246, 246, 31. That's cool. So let's try that. So if you look at it, red is 246 and green is 246. So red is 246, green is 246, blue is 31. So blue is like just very slightly on at 31. Okay, now this might not be perfect, but hopefully it'll give us something close to yellow. Let me make sure here. 6 should be blue, right? Oh no, I messed up here. So mine is like red, blue, green. So 5 is blue for me. So 5 should be 31. And 6 should be 246. Right? Yeah, it's green. It's 246. Going back here. Yeah. Red and green is 246. Blue is 31. Blue is 31, which is 5 for me. Okay. And the other two are 246. Let's upload. Hopefully it's a little bit yellow. Is it yellow? Kind of. You know, I'm seeing more of like a greenish thing going on. So what you want to do then is kind of play with this. You can play with these numbers because this is something for like websites and stuff. This little tool here. But since you're using an LED here, right? And then you have different resistor in here. Like if you had a different type of resistor or a different value, the actual color might be different. So you know, as you can see, you move this around, right? These are all yellow, right? And we have some here where like the blue is totally off. Well, I guess you said 255 and blue off is maybe a stronger yellow. So let's just try that real quick before I let you go. 255. Let's try that. Maybe it's going to be a better yellow. What am I doing here? Oh yeah, turn that off. It is more yellow. Okay, harder to tell, but it is more yellow. All right, but you know, I want you to just experiment with that and just keep that in mind that these won't be exact, but it should get you close. You can play around with the numbers, okay, to kind of perfect it. But what I want you to do is try to get it to go red and then orange and then yellow and then green and then blue and so forth, okay? So that will be a bigger of a challenge. You have sorry, let me go back to so you can see. Yeah, I was saying here, do the ROYGBIV color of the rainbows in a row. Red is super easy because it's just one light is on and then all the other ones are off. Now, as we do this, before I let you go, one more thing, okay? We're going to do something called a macro. Because, you know, earlier I messed up. I'm like, which number is blue again? Oh, 5 is blue. I have to go back here. I keep forgetting. We're going to do a macro. You'll see what this is. Okay, define red as 3. Define blue as 5. Define green 6. Okay, you see how it matches up? Green is 6, blue is 5, red is 3. Now you could just say, instead of the 3 there, just say red. Instead of the 5 there, you can just say blue, all caps. And then instead of the 6, just say green. Let me say that, make sure that that works. Okay, that does work. Good. Sometimes I get it wrong. Okay, so now when we're here, we can just say red 5, blue, and green. Red, blue, and green. Okay, so now whenever you do your AnalogWrite, instead of putting those numbers in there, you can just write the words. So then now you're not going to get confused because you just write the word in there, and then it's kind of like a variable. The Arduino will know, okay, since you wrote blue, it's going to go up here and look at the macro. Well, what's blue? Well, blue is 5. So it'll do that for you on the back side, but you don't have to think about it. You just put blue whenever you want to control the blue light, and so forth. so forth. So as same as the red and green. Okay. All right, so I kind of added another thing. I wasn't planning to go through the analog thing right away, but you know what? I think it's fun. I think so. Now, go ahead, try out. The first thing is like the police car light pattern. I think that one will be easier than the red, green, red blink, green blink, blue blink. I think it's a little not too hard too. And then the rainbow will be a little bit of a challenge, but I think might be fun too. All right. Have fun with that. If you have any questions, as always, reach out. Have fun. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.